We couldn't be live. Oh, I think we're live. Sweet.
Yay.
What's up, everyone? This is Joe and John. We're back. GameStop to 100 Billy. John says, what's up? We're going to start doing some 20-minute shows, maybe 15, 30 minutes, depending on what's going on over the weekdays. And we're going to have fun with it. So we want to do a bunch of different stuff. We're going to talk about news that's happening. The way we wanted to approach this was almost coming in at it cold, and you get a feel for the way that John and I kind of look at LunarCrush and, formulate what we're seeing for the day and, how we kind of digest all of the crypto news, the market news, macro news, stocks news, and some of the things that we're interested in. I know John's also watching UFC. I see a bunch of UFC fighters being added to LunarCrush. I'm watching the PGA Tour. So there's a lot of other fun things that we can hopefully talk about on this stream and kind of do some quick hits. And so that's it. We're gonna have fun with it. So, John, what are you seeing today so far out on social?
Man, it's not just today. It's like the last few weeks I've been glued to watching GameStop the whole time. It's interesting to see like the meme stocks make such a major return. And I think you see a lot of people talking about GameStop, but there's a whole narrative here. You've got a lot of people that have mistrust for the government in terms of their investments, and they think Wall Street is rigged against them. And so there's that whole side of things. We got Roaring Kitty coming back, 3-4 weeks ago, and then gave an Uno card last night in one of his posts, and then showed that no, his GameStop
is he really
holdings
holding $200 million worth?
Not just that, he has options to get a whole lot more. So
Wow.
it's really
Roaring Kitty is just big bags.
Yeah, very much so. I think the most fascinating part about it that people don't realize is that if you were looking at LunarCrush over the last year, you'd see that social activity was consistently coming up.
Yeah, I know you made that call the week before it
Let
moved.
me yeah, so like when you
Roy
come
Kitty's
back,
gonna be a billionaire. That's just nuts. He just needs a 5x.
Easily. I mean, he was, the only we were joking yesterday because
Good for him.
Nancy Pelosi had just a little bit more net worth than him yesterday. So I think that changed today.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's in Berkshire Hathaway either, and if that came down 99.7%
Yeah,
earlier
she got
today.
mugged by what's left of Berkshire.
Right. But I think it's interesting to see those with a smaller level of net worth participate in something that's really so exciting. I think that's good for everyone. Get people excited about investing, get them kind of on this path towards understanding and researching, and it's pretty cool. I want to say, is my screen sharing?
Not yet.
Can you
I'll fire
see?
it up. There you go.
So like, when you look at GameStop, like it's super wild, like what's going on, today. But I pulled these up to show like this was like a week ago, but we've been posting about this for 3-4 weeks. We're like, what is happening? Because before the move happened at all in GameStop, before Roaring Kitty did his first big tweet a few weeks ago, the Friday before, we were posting all about what is going on. We're seeing market volume move up. We're seeing trading. We're seeing price move up. We're seeing social activity move up. But the social activity was moving up consistently, and this is before Roaring Kitty tweeted. And so it was before all the speculation started. And so, there was stuff happening in the background a lot before people all of a sudden took notice of, a famous individual tweeting all of a sudden. This is also from last Friday, like this was our alt rank for stocks. And you could see like, there's a lot of crypto stuff going on here. Like Coinbase was leading. This is from May 24th. So over a week ago, we had Coinbase, MicroStrategy. There's a lot of interactions going on. And there's GameStop at number 10. And we're like, why is GameStop number 10? Before that, it was like number 600. So it moved up. This is way before. This is a week or so ago when the price was $18.95. And so, and then shortly after, or like this was posted as well, and it moved up to 1943. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And no, the activity wasn't down. This is the current hour that was still pulling in. And so, which was actually a lot higher than even this high point. And, and then you come into something like today, and we noticed even yesterday, the activity for GameStop, for hours this whole time dude, this is higher than Bitcoin, right? Like, so when you talk about the scale of what this is, it's stunning. Like all of a sudden, just boom. And then what happened out of this was because Roaring Kitty posted his holdings in on Reddit, and then came in and started posting this stuff on X as well. Um, it led to this sort of broadening out funnel of things that were not just about speculation necessarily, because everyone's going, dude is holding almost 5% of the company if he exercises
Yeah.
those options. So, which I believe is just under the amount that you have to
But
report,
he's
right?
not, he's just gonna hold. That's like his whole thing. Like go hit the
Right.
1 month on GameStop. Like I think it's just like or sorry, the 3 month. It's just like a test pump. Like you even remove like the interactions. Like when you're just looking at price here, right? I think you're on market cap, but like same thing. It's the same pump where it's just like you think it's over, but it's not over. And he's not gonna sell. Like the whole thing his last time was like, do I sell? And it was no, no matter how low it went. Man, I
Uh,
think it's gonna keep
you
moving
know,
up.
it's also it's not a stock; it's a movement. And I say that because it's sort of like, Wall Street. There's this general belief from your average investor that the game is rigged against them, and that expresses itself in a lot of different ways. I mean, this is pretty much the backbone of crypto, right? It's a different mantra than it is investing in stocks.
Yeah.
And but that sort of expresses itself in GameStop, but it's not alone. If I go back here, I just pulled a few of these out. I pulled out AMC, right, which was also halted this morning, right? What part of this news is AMC?
Yeah.
Nothing, right? It's GameStop, and but this is all part of that narrative. And so there's a narrative around things that's happening. I mean, if I pulled further out and said, well, what does BlackBerry have to do with this? Not a lot. But if you kind of like, this is in that bucket of meme stocks. And
It's
so
wild. You're
and
supposed to like the halting, like the cooling off period on the stock market is supposed to prevent against crashes, right? That's why that was put into place, is that there's this kind of cooling off period. It's actually the same reason that, you can't walk into the store and like get a gun. Like there's a cooling, you have to wait a week, so they have this cooling off period so people don't panic, right? Obviously in
right,
crypto, we don't have that. It's an open market unless you're dealing with, some sort of centralized exchange that stops things, but it's supposed to be more decentralized. But even so, the point is to protect against downside, not to protect. Why are they protecting against upside? Oh, because guess who's winning? The retail investors were winning, not, the institutional investors. So they're just going to halt it. It makes absolutely no sense.
yeah, it's part of, again, that's the same narrative. And when you think about it, those people that are getting hurt, they're not out there on X, they're not out there on TikTok making videos talking about how much money they're losing. they're
Yeah.
they're not they're not the general consumer that's out there that is investing, right? And I pulled this up because it shows social interactions, and that's kind of the activity across all of the social posts. So what are all these things happening? Are there comments? Is there engagement going on? Um, and it's interesting because, yes, you see these very pronounced spikes here, right? These are massive, and this is what's happening today, which actually isn't as high as, even though it's high, it's still not as high as what happened on May 14th. So you might consider saying, there's additional potential here in terms of the activity that could come up. But when you look back, and it's so skewed, it's so hard to tell because these spikes are so big. Um, but when you go back, I mean, you had some activity here in January, right? This is all elevated. This is all elevated. You come back here, this is really low. And so we kind of went from this generally low place to higher in general, and higher. It's hard to tell again, and then boom. But like, that mixed with market volume, mixed with price, everything kind of was sort of bottoming out ish over the last year here. And so it's really fascinating to watch this because it isn't one person posting, even though everyone points out Roaring Kitty's celebrity status here. This is a lot of people. And, when you look at some of these creators, like these are the people for GameStop that have the most activity. And so we track all the top creators across all these different social networks. Interesting, they're all on X. So like when you look at unusual whales, Gergevin, what is this? Amit is
Unusual
investing,
Whale just
you know?
crushes. He just crushes, by the way.
Yes.
Like anything
Yes.
stock oriented that has any sort of like, I mean, even if it's not meme related, but anything meme related, like he gets the most interactions by far for all that stuff. That's a pretty
Very
valuable
much.
account.
Very much so. Very much so. And a lot of their posts, we've got they're posting about what's going on, and they've got some really amazing data on their site too. They're talking about Dave Portnoy, how he
Yeah.
owns 1.2 million of GME, and we see that Stool Presidente, there he is, one of the top creators, and he's fun. He's posting about Warren Buffett. He's talking all about it's go time, GME. Like he's really talking about this investment. He's an interesting one because he puts his money where his mouth is a bit, and sometimes it doesn't work in his favor, and sometimes it does. But he's an interesting character to
Totally.
follow. Always entertaining, but really interesting. A lot of the activities on X, but there's other stuff elsewhere, but a lot on X, and so that's GameStop, and we'll keep watching it, but fascinating to see what's going on. Also fascinating to see what we saw earlier. Oh, it's all fixed now on here when you go back a year. But
Oh,
if I
we
just
just still
showed
got
you the
that.
one day,
Yeah.
um,
I'm sure
this is pretty
obviously
crazy.
we know that was just like, it had to be a bug, but like, how does that stuff happen?
I would love to know at a moment where this is happening with GameStop and
Like
AMC and
what triggered,
others.
what did this, if it was a bug, like what was the repercussion? Like what else got triggered here would be my question. Did some quant firms end up like going long on something or shorting something, or like what happened because of this? Like follow the money a little bit here.
Right. Yeah,
But
it's
don't look
almost
here,
like
look
this.
here.
It's almost like the stock market needs a blockchain that's like you can't mess with, and that it's a different structure. But yes, I don't know. I'd be curious. There's a lot of models that are behind this stock, and I'm sure they got thrown off today. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Just one small shill for us. Get
oh, we got a
25%
chill.
LunarCrush with YouTube 25.
Does
Yeah,
that
we
apply to
gotta
me?
no, we gotta people, if you're out there, you're listening, we're hooking you up 25% off, YouTube 25, LunarCrush, all this stuff. That's why we're here. This is a hard shill. So follow it up. That's it. Okay. Hard shill over.
Probably the best deal anywhere, anyways. So, um, the other thing on here to look at, what's interesting is GameStop has a coin also, right?
Or they don't have a
And
coin. There is a coin.
there is a coin called GameStop. You're right.
The
I,
coin
I, I need
exists.
to clarify that.
Look
But
at that
you
increasing
know,
volume.
yeah, and what's interesting to me is like, well, how does this correlate? We need to look at this a little bit deeper, but like, how does this
Yeah.
actually correlate with social activity? It's pretty darn close. When you look at this last spike here, went way up, came back, came back. We're still only here. The social activity could potentially still run. It's moving, but it's the day hasn't even memorialized yet, so it's still coming together. But that's really fascinating. Um, Also, is like that we're seeing like this is our top alt rank on here, and so we see that the top assets, like, not shocked. A lot of these are meme coins. And so we've seen these meme coins just go absolutely wild this year. I'll point out dog since I see it's right here. And this is one we've been really watching lately. Really interesting time here. This was right at the time when runes came out. And right around here was the time that everyone was saying, oh, you know what, that was a fun experiment. Runes are dead. That's it. It's not going to happen. And wouldn't you know, right around here, around May 14th, it was kind of roughly speaking the moment that everyone probably was just sort of turning away, not watching the
Mhm.
space. And you see that what's happened since on here. This is pretty wild. And it's wild from the standpoint, this is almost $1 billion market cap.
Yeah, they made it to the top 100 today.
Wild. Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating to watch. The community's crazy. I mean, when we look at this community, the last little bit here, look at that activity in the last month.
It's
Um,
nuts.
if we're looking at the creators posting, This is like 2,000 some odd people, keeps increasing, keeps going up constantly. They're posting before the launch. They're still posting. So pretty interesting, very, very healthy chart to see what's going on here. And we get like a lot of these posts have a lot of activity. Even our posts that we've done have a lot of activity on this project. So pretty cool.
Yeah, congrats to Leonidas. We're gonna have him on Wednesday, LunarCrush Live. So
Was that this week?
Yeah, that's or maybe it's next week.
Cool.
Coming on. I think it might be next week. Yeah, next week.
Nice.
This week I've got Alex Miller from Hero. But yeah, next week he'll come on. I'll ping him about some of this stuff and just what his thoughts are. I mean, I saw him post today. It's like he doesn't even like have that much of it. I think he has like 30K, but like he bought at the bottom or something. But it's like you'd think someone like that, like he'd be more in like the Roy and Kitty category with how much that he has. But it is interesting because like when you really think about it, tokens on Bitcoin, like why wouldn't at least the best one of those be in the top 10?
Yeah, and you'd think like, trading these things hasn't been easy. Like when these things came out, it isn't like your average, Coinbase investor or something like that, or in Binance is just buying and selling these things like they are any other coin. It does take some work. And so you do have to have some know-how. And so it's really just interesting to see that space. I mean, we saw the same thing with the ERC20s. Ordi, if you got in early on Ordi, it wasn't an easy ordeal to get it. You had to actually understand what you were doing and listen. So I think
40 at right now, market cap wise. But it
is 987 million.
So they're 103. So
it
was just passed by Dog.
Yeah.
Also, Dog Go to Moon is actually going to the moon on our Nakamoto One project, which is going to be rad. They're going to send some dog to that address, so that'll be fun.
Literal dog to the moon.
Yes,
that's pretty cool.
How can you not fire that up? Has the opportunity to send it to the moon. It's going to the moon.
Interesting. So another thing that this is ranking number 1 right now, Pepe. So this is another fun one where, I still remember we've been following this one the whole time. I think back in here, people were saying this thing's done. It's going away. It's going away. It's going away. It's going away. It's going to go away again. And like, boom, right? So if you've been in Pepe for a year, you've had a 10x.
Yeah.
And the market volume still is going wild over here. And what's crazy is, you look at the social posts.
The interactions chart is actually probably a little bit better. Yeah, look at that pump before it moves.
Yeah, and so what's interesting, this is also interesting from a lot of standpoints. A lot more social posts, but a lot of them aren't necessarily getting as much interaction either. So like you'd almost expect the orange line to keep going up, but these are the kinds of things. I mean, this is if I just looked at this alone, like this is a socially driven asset. And the meme class, the entire class of meme coins moves on social, yet everyone's sitting here staring at this. And they're doing TA, and the TA is really driven by the social activity going on. And so more than anything, and we're seeing it again with GameStop, so it applies to stocks as well. But fascinating to see all this. We've seen the same thing with Floki. I mean, wild.
Floki.
Yeah, and a lot of activity here too. There you go.
You don't see a lot of resurgence from previous cycles. So like the fact that some of these are doing that, it's like I think that's also really healthy. These communities are still here. Longevity is everything, man.
It is. Absolutely. And like these guys, when they post, I mean, thousands of likes every post. They touch anyone else's posts, thousands of likes. Like this community is really, really like on top of things, and they're really active and really participate. And now I think they have what is it? They have TokenFi now, and it's a real world asset, like the token, right? They launched this a little bit ago, which now also gets a ton of engagement from their community.
This wasn't the DAO, was it?
This was I don't even remember. I can't remember.
This might have been like the DEX token. What was it? This is what we're gonna do on the show. We're gonna like look things up.
We should have them back on, talk it through.
Yeah, they're fun. You can tell they were focused on a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
Yeah, ecosystem, all-in-one tokenization platform. Standard tokenization process can be painfully slow and extremely expensive for the average user. Oh, okay. So create a token or tokenize real-world assets in a simple all-in-one platform. So it's probably like an ecosystem token for that, like a token launcher. Yeah, that was right.
Yeah, pretty
Some
cool.
interesting
So
stuff,
maybe
Joe. Yeah.
we'll do some more research. Let's do a show on real world assets coming up, because I think there's more than think. There's a lot going on over there, and led by BlackRock's interest, especially. They're investing in that space quite heavily. So we'll talk more about that.
Jets says, so is it back? Jets, if you're listening out there, what is what back?
I think everything's back.
Are we back?
Do you think should I put you on the price target on the spot for that,
Bitcoin.
Joe? What's your price target for Bitcoin?
So tough. It was really interesting when I talked to the Mariano at the Trading Parrot. He's great and like really has done, a ton of technical analysis that is interesting. It's so far beyond what I'm capable of and what I look at, the way that I see the market with social, and I just kind of go like off of feelings. But he was kind of saying we needed to go lower if we were going to eventually go much higher. Like it wasn't enough of like a pullback. I mean, I know he talks about like CME gaps and everything that need to be covered there, but I think the move up that we just had was actually outside of the way that he was kind of talking about it. And I kind of dig what he was saying. I think we have to have we're going to have some sort of blow the top off moment soon. And I don't know if it coincides somewhat with Bitcoin 2024 at the end of July, where everyone's going to be talking about it. I mean, we're going to be sitting there at a Bitcoin conference at 70K, which like I don't think we have had that before. So I think it's going to be a really awesome time. I know you went to the MicroStrategy conference, and how hard Michael Saylor's been pushing. Ethereum is now like an ETF. Like all signs to me are pointing to like, when is this moment to 100K? And I think 100K is like the psychological number, and we'll float around and back in and around it for I think a long time. But man, I'm really still thinking we get there this year. I know it's like if you go back and look at all the price targets, like I'm probably on a ton of live streams talking about it, but like everyone beginning of the year was going 225, 250, it's coming. But I think 100 has to be the number, and we have to break this all-time high here. And I think we will soon. The halving is kind of baked. We've got through that a little bit. The supply is shrunk, a little bit on that, where, I think it was 900 Bitcoins. Now it's 450 Bitcoins. Like that does add up over time, all the Bitcoin being pulled off the exchanges. We're going to have like the supply shock, everything happen. So I don't know, long-winded answer to say, like, I don't know my exact time for it, but like, it feels like it's getting closer. And like, like I know all this stuff that happened last week. I mean, we had a super bullish week with like Fit 121 and, all the regulation that has been passed in the last couple of weeks here. I think there's like, I know Biden vetoed it, but at the same time, it's like Joe Biden's not going to stop Bitcoin from going to 100K. Like it's just one little like it's just not. So what? Throw out everything that we've done because of one little thing. It's like no, it's just going to keep barreling forward. So yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking 100K by the end of the year. At some point, could go much higher than that. But obviously, it's not financial advice. But it does feel like something's pushing it finally here, where we've kind of spent. It's been. I mean, if you go to the 1 year, I feel like it's been like pretty sideways since March. Yeah. So it's like we're getting into the summer here. So yeah, I don't know. That's my take. 100K imminent at some point.
100K this year.
Yeah, I think 100K for sure
potentially
this year. Yeah, for sure.
it,
Has to
it's
happen.
kind of interesting that historically, if you look at the returns after the halvings, and if you kind of average it out over time, we're kind of right where it historically is after a halving. In terms of the performance within a month, 2, 3 months after, and it's the coming months that you typically see the advancement after a halving. And so what I'm interested in is when I'm looking at the social side of this, um, and I see, yeah, okay, activity's up a bit. There's posts about Bitcoin, and this was actually, I mean, this was why we started LunarCrush way back in the day. We were like, okay, we're on all these social networks. Are there more or less posts than the other day? Are people more engaged or less? Are there more or less people than the other day? How does that look every day? And like I haven't seen in here what I would consider to be like a retail pickup. Like we're all focused on price, and number go up is good for everyone. Obviously, it makes everything happen. And obviously, honestly, if nothing changes over time, it's almost just inevitable. It has to. But it's like, how broad is that? How broad is that? And what we see historically as well is when price goes up, activity goes up across social as well. And so what I'm curious is, does this broaden out? Because thus far, it feels a lot like it's not a retail move, at least so far. So
Mhm.
it's going to be interesting to watch this. In fact, if anything, we're seeing way more retail move in GameStop than we are in Bitcoin in many ways. And so this will be really interesting to keep an eye on over the coming weeks and months. But I do agree with you on the on moving higher. But I would also say the other thing that keeps hitting me in my mind is they're just a endless, like, perpetual bid on this thing. What I mean by that is everyone talks about cycles, right? Everyone's talking cycles, and there's more liquidity in the market, there's less liquidity in the market. There's more in the market, there's less in the market. What does price of Bitcoin do? Well, it goes up, it collapses. It goes up, it collapses, right? Over time, it always goes up, just as the liquidity just never endingly goes up too. Um, but what does it look like? And I don't think anyone's ever had to measure anything like this before. What does a fixed supply of an asset look like in an environment where you have things like countries taking on as a parallel currency? What is there really a cycle anymore if that happens? Or is it just like, dude, hold on for dear life and never let go?
Yeah,
That's kind of what I'm wondering.
I think the retracements become not as volatile. Obviously you have retracements in the largest markets, I think, in the
Sure.
world, right? But like think about, something like a real estate, right? Like the retracements, like your house isn't going down 87%, right? So I think it's like that's probably what we see as it gets bigger, as, like you said, more countries literally come in and say, hey, we're going to use both of these currencies. And yes, it doesn't make sense for the United States to do that right now. They have a leading currency in the world, like, petroleum backed by the dollar. Like, why would you suddenly adopt Bitcoin? It makes no sense if you're like leading. But for people that aren't, it's a great option to have, right? I mean, look at what El Salvador is doing, right? Like, I think they've turned so much around down there. And if you're, at the bigger countries will continue to adopt it as they see these things happen, or their people will continue to adopt it. Those people will continue to vote in the people that support it. I think Trump actually made a great move by going pro crypto, because actually what he did, if you think about this, RFK was kind of owning like the industry, right? Like he's going to be at Bitcoin 2024. He's been talking with all of these things. Like everyone in our industry is all super bullish on RFK, which like we are too. It's great. But like that could have swung some votes. People are like, I'm just gonna, I know Trump's been bearish on crypto in the past. Like, I'll just vote for RFK. By him flipping that, I think he just sucked up all of those people that otherwise would have said, like, I'm just gonna vote for RFK. It's kind of like the opt-out vote in a way. Like a lot of people in Web3 are like more libertarian, I would say. And especially Bitcoiners are more libertarian, and they're just gonna vote third party or whatever else, like every single time. They probably would vote for someone like an RFK. Now they're like, meh, I'll just vote over here because like I'm a one issue voter, which like whether or not you like that or not, a lot of people, that's how they vote. Like they're just like, hey, what's the one thing I care about? Then I got to get back to work. Like I can't pay attention to everything going on in politics. So that's an interesting one. That is probably a smart move on his side. That's why I was interested. It was interesting to see Biden veto. Obviously, that's where they're at. Like, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, but like, why does that surprise you? But it's like at the end of the day, it's like, isn't the whole goal for these people just to get back in office? Like, that's it. And so, like, they almost like shouldn't even care They should just like go down one direction and that's it. So you would think he would have approved it, but either way, I know we probably aren't going to get super political on this, but we do track, like, we've tracked like the election, and I saw you post the thing the other day with like Trump having 70% of the conversation.
Right.
Biden.
If we just go into dominance, so it's a little
Yeah,
bit lower
yeah.
now, but like it's down to 53 and 37, and RFK has 2%. We still have all the people that have dropped out in here, other than I don't know about Cornel West, but like with all of these people, Trump himself has more than half of the dominance. It was like 70% the other day, and it's really just kind of look at that. Now
Is that
that's
because
his
he
1
showed up
year.
at that? Did you watch the UFC event? I didn't watch it.
Did he come to Orange County?
No, he's at the UFC event. Like he like showed up.
Oh, the
like,
UFC. I think you said the OC event. That was
oh no.
incredible. Yeah. Dana White introducing him for his new TikTok. Did you see that?
I didn't know. But like, what's
Incredible.
the guy just showing up at that thing, like
Wow.
full suit on? I
Yeah.
know the one thing I did see was like I guess Aaron Rodgers was there, and like he just like walked past him, and Aaron Rodgers put his hand out, so he got slighted
Yes.
a little bit. He got big timed.
Yeah. I think Aaron Rodgers also expressed support for RFK, or if I don't recall, that's
Okay.
recently, something like that. But yeah, look, interesting times, and I think that there's like, crypto is now a class of voter in a strange way. I'm not sure the exact appropriate term for what you call it, but it used to be like there's kind of the rich people in the world that own things. They own property that went up. They have assets. They are participating in the economy. And then there's everyone else that can't afford that stuff. And those two classes vote very differently. And now there's almost this third class that's sort of outside the classes, that's, people are their inflation rate is Bitcoin's inflation rate. They're building in Web3 and building their life in Web3, and they only keep the money that they need in a bank account for their bills. They don't have savings accounts. Their savings account is crypto. And so it's a humongous and fastest growing group of voters. And so I think it's almost like what feels like is what is happening is it's becoming clear that it's that important, and it's an actual legitimate class versus look at the tune of just the ETH ETF approval, for example, right? Like I'm going to go back to the MicroStrategy conference where Saylor's on stage saying that it will never be approved. It's a security, and going down the line, naming all of the coins off and saying ETH will never be approved as an ETF. Well, 2 weeks later, it was approved as an ETF.
Yeah,
So
pull that one up. We got that ETF. I mean,
yes.
Like even just the term Ethereum ETF though.
Oh, just the term for it?
Yeah. I think we had, yeah, I mean.
So that's this week. So we got the 1 month. Yeah, we've compared this too with the Bitcoin. This is tiny compared to the Bitcoin ETF approval, but it's still, that's a lot of activity. I mean, like to say that there was 15 million social interactions on May 24th, and right around here was when the announcement came out, right?
And then it's just kind of floated out.
But these will go up as they start trading and as it all becomes solidified and more players enter the market and all of that. But yeah, we track all that stuff, so it's gonna be fun to watch. It's actually like if you look at the Bitcoin spot ETFs, it's really interesting. I believe these are the Hong Kong ones. So we have some information there, but like you look at, if I just looked at market cap here, I mean, oh my God, like IBIT just crossed GBTC in a matter of weeks. And I don't remember the exact number, but it was 20 something % of all of BlackRock's inflows or something like that were in IBIT. Yeah. Like stunning. It's crazy. But when you see all this, if I looked at IBIT and you look at the price, I mean, that's wow, like it's amazing in a short period of time. This is the market cap. And if I looked at the price, it's done that. But the social activity and the interactions, it's okay. I mean, it's fairly decent. Remember, these are ETFs. These aren't like
ETF.
That's right. And so like name one other ETF. People aren't going and posting about DVY or GLD all day long on their social media. There's a handful of people that do that.
Yeah, like
And so
I can't wait to talk about like the emerging market, like small cap fund. Like no one's talking like that.
I just can't I can't believe what we're seeing with GBTC that fast. And it's interesting because competition breeds innovation, and like now they're going to launch a mini Bitcoin fund that has lower or no fees or something like that. And like, so it's all good for the space. It's good for institutional adoption. It's also good for sucking up Bitcoin. And when we see, like, I want to say over the last month, what is this? Almost 90,000 Bitcoin have left exchanges. Think about that for a second. There's 21 million. No, there's not. There's a lot less, 15, 16 million, maybe-ish. No one knows the exact number.
Maybe.
But it's like at a rate of 90,000 leaving exchanges. And every day since these ETFs have launched, Bitcoin has left exchanges. Think about that. So like, what does that mean over time? It means that there's no Bitcoin to buy at some point. Well, what does that mean? It means you're using it. Well, what does that mean? How are you using it? Enters, and then you enter things like Lightning. You end up with layer 2s. You end up with DeFi on Bitcoin. It's really an interesting time.
And then someone asked me why dog is going to be worth $1 billion, right? It's like, well, what if that's the number one meme coin that's utilized in a way, or like, I don't know. I think it's going to continue to move.
What does it look like with Arun? What does it look like with these things on Bitcoin? And you enter a space where people are using their Bitcoin, and layer 2s are out there. So don't know yet, but there's a lot of dev going on, that's for sure.
Amazing. Well, we're not going to give too much more alpha away today, but we're going to continue to come back at you guys with some fun stuff every day, the things that we're seeing, and just having a fun time chatting through it. And then remember, get 25% off LunarCrush with YouTube 25. Support us, support the show. All right, man. Good to go. Love you guys. Thanks everyone for listening. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
See you tomorrow.